Football is back on the plains as year 2 of the Hugh Freeze era at Auburn gets underway. The Auburn Tigers taking on the Alabama A&M Bulldogs, and we're previewing, predicting, breaking it all down as we get you ready for kickoff. Hello, I'm Chris Phillips. He's Dave Shumate. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. We're brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Guys, go to mybookie.ag. Use promo code SECU at sign up to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit. Again, guys, it's mybookie.ag, promo code SECU to get your special welcome offer today. Year 2 of the Hugh Freeze era set to get underway on Saturday, August the 31st against Alabama A&M as the Bulldogs come to town for a non-conference showdown. Again, we're previewing, predicting, breaking it all down for you guys as the 2024 season gets underway on the plains. Helping me do so, my good friend, once again, Dave Shumate takes the time. What's going on, Dave? Appreciate you taking the time, brother.
No, CP fired up for it, man. Fired up. Big year 2 for Hugh Freeze. They got everything kind of going from a recruiting standpoint, especially in state. I think this is a big year for them to kind of see, hey, can we get to that 8-win mark? I feel like that's kind of the number. Obviously, starts to go in 1-0 in week 1 against the Bulldogs from Alabama A&M.
Yeah, getting off on the right foot, Dave, setting the tone. Again, Saturday, August the 31st at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. This game on ESPN Plus and or SEC Network Plus, of course, being played at Jordan-Hare Stadium there in Auburn. Dave, the spread is out on this one. And again, it depends on what book, by the way. You're not going to get a spread at every single sports book, but yours truly was able to find it. Auburn is a 48.5 point favorite in this game. The over-under set at 56.5. Auburn leads this all-time series, Dave, 2-0. And the last time these two teams met, 2016, the Tigers won that game 55-0. The other time, I believe, Dave, was 2012, and it was a very, very similar score. So,
I was at Auburn that year, 2016. I think we played them, what was it, second to last game of the year for the Iron Bowl, something like that. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. 55-0 was the final in that one. So, again, there have been 2 meetings. Neither have been all that competitive. We're probably looking at the same result here. But either way, a lot to dive into with this game. Let's first, guys, break down the Bulldogs. Went 5-6, 3-5 in conference season ago, Dave. They're picked to finish 4th in the SWAC East by the media. Had 3 players selected the preseason first team all SWAC. Running back Donovan Eaglin, wide receiver Jacoby Hewitt, and defensive back Amari Pate. They're led by quarterback Xavier Lankford, who threw for 904 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 5 picks. Also ran for 294 and 6 touchdowns. So a little bit of a dual threat guy. He also split time at quarterback. So that was while he was only getting about half the snaps. Again, the rushing total, Dave, of 6 touchdowns. Guy who can do a little bit of both. I mentioned Eaglin was their top ball carrier last year, ran for 765 yards, 7 touchdowns a season ago. Hewitt, the receiver, had 516 yards with 4 touchdowns. And Pate, the defensive back, preseason all-conference guy, 49 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and 4 interceptions. They've also got a really nice piece, Dave, in the secondary, Caleb Dawson, who had 50 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and 3 picks in 2023. Dave, you know as well as I do, this game's all about Auburn. We'll get into it in just a second. But, you know, there shouldn't be much of a challenge. I can't even try to paint a rosy picture for Alabama A&M. For Auburn, it really is about coming out, take care of business. Obviously, A&M's got some players. They've got some ball players. But in regards to relating to the SEC level, even if you're an all-conference SWAC guy, it's going to be really, really difficult for Alabama A&M to get much of anything going in this game.
Yeah, it's for sure going to be about Auburn. I mean, it's kind of how I talked about with the Texas-Colorado State game when me and Cole were previewing it. I mean, obviously, Colorado State a much better football team than Alabama A&M. But you want to see Auburn kind of come out and let's get a clean look. Let's put this thing away early. Obviously, nobody's worried about it. But, like, hey, let's don't go fumbling in up 21-3 at half or something. People are kind of, man, we left some meat on the bone. Let's show that, hey, Hugh Freeze is taking over the play call. Probably not going to be too complicated that week. I could see Auburn trying to establish the run with Jarquez Hunter, Damari Alston, guys like that, with an offensive line that I don't think they're as comfortable right now as they thought they would be when they brought in Percy Lewis, who we're familiar with, coming over from Mississippi State at left tackle. I think he's going to have to move inside. I think the offensive line, again, has not been as good as they thought they would be at this point of the season. I mean, we know about the weapons. We know about Perry Thompson. We know about Cam Coleman. We know about Keandre Lambert-Smith coming over from Penn State. I think Rivaldo Fairweather at the tight end spot could have a big season with those guys on the outside helping him. I just think Auburn kind of goes in and tries to establish the run, test their offensive line, like, hey, let's get into a rhythm, guys. Let's get into a rhythm. I think they'll save what they got on the outside probably once they get to that Cal game. But no, I mean, it's all, like you said, it's all going to be about Auburn and Jordan-Hare next Saturday. But let's get a good start. Let's get a quick start, and let's start focusing on week 2, probably around halftime.
Dave, I tried to give the Bulldogs as much credit as I possibly could, by the way. But as you could tell, it was very short-lived. So it is what it is. We mentioned, again, year 2 of the Hugh Freeze era, Dave, begins. High expectations, important to get off on the right foot. Like you mentioned, what does the operation look like? Because you're going to win this ball game. But, most have stated getting to 8-4 is kind of the minimum expectation on the Plains for a successful year. You've mentioned that as well. Of course, Auburn people have mentioned that. You mentioned, Dave, that wide receiver room, and I don't disagree with you totally. I think they're going to try to establish the run, obviously, get some continuity in the offensive line, have something to feel good about with Jarquez Hunter in the gang. But I am excited to get our first look at that star-studded wide receiver room. I mean, guys like Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Keandre Lambert-Smith. I think you could argue, Dave, there isn't a team in the SEC that flipped their skill position players more than what Auburn did. So, I mean, anytime you have a guy, Dave, like Cam Coleman, finally we saw him in the spring game, and I know it's a spring game, but like we all know how good this kid, has the potential to be. I mean, I talk to Auburn folks, Dave, and they talk about him like he's going to be the best wide receiver in school history by the time he leaves. So I'm most excited, probably, honestly, Dave, to get a look at those wide receivers because we've heard so much about him to this point.
To piggyback off your statement here, CP, you said best skill group. I'd probably say best entire position group in the league from a night and day different. Who improves the most? Specific position group. Who's going to look different? I do think it's all even if they're not getting the production this season that we thought. Maybe if Payton Thorne just doesn't progress, and you're sitting out there, man, Auburn's going to be a premier quarterback transfer market in the offseason. So the ability, the floor in that room was raised. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They recruited in there. They brought in Keandre Lambert-Scott. Keandre Lambert-Scott over from Penn State. Keandre Lambert. I'm right on that,
Smith.
Right?
Is it Smith?
Keandre Lambert-Smith. Sorry, right
okay.
off the top of
my head. I thought I was wrong. It's like, what is Dave?
No. You're right. Keandre Lambert-Smith. I misspoke on that. The talent has been raised there. They're better no matter what's going to happen. Like I said, I think I was talking about that in the offseason. Like, there's not a room it's improved like the Auburn position room. And it only could be. I mean, I think Rivaldo Fairweather was their leading receiver last year. There really wasn't a lot of production. He's a tight end. But, there really wasn't a lot of skill there. And I think the true freshmen, the underclassmen, and then obviously Keandre Lambert-Smith helps improve that room as well.
Dave, I will say this in this season opener. I don't care who the opponent is. I don't care what level they're coming from. I don't care if they're SWAC or SEC or what have you. We need to see some early positive signs from Payton Thorne. I do not care who the opponent is. I think all eyes fairly are going to be on the Auburn signal caller. This is now Hugh Freeze's offense, right? He's taking control of that thing, which I think we all agree was a smart move. But, Dave, you mentioned the operation as a whole. What are you looking for from Payton Thorne specifically? Because everybody's down and out on this dude for the most part, especially folks outside of Auburn, Alabama. I mean, I'm not a Payton Thorne guy. I'm not high on him. But, getting off on the right foot and off to a hot start. I'm not saying, listen, we're not going to draw conclusions. If he throws for 300 and runs for 150 against Alabama A&M, doesn't really mean anything, right? We need to get into SEC play. At minimum, get against a team like Cal, right, in the non-conference. But I just, Hugh Freeze pushed all his chips to the center of the table when he did not go in the portal and get a quarterback. So, I think it's so important for Payton Thorne to get started, get hot early, stay hot. What are you looking for specifically in this game? Because again, I would agree every outing this year is going to be massive for Auburn's QB1.
I mean, I think it's one of those things you don't want to see them getting late in a play clock and having to force a timeout in the middle of the first quarter to kind of get a play in. You don't want him to go make a check at the line of scrimmage on 3rd and 2, and he gets them into the wrong run. And Freeze is a pretty animated dude. He shows his emotions. You don't want him throwing his play call sheet up in there, putting his hands up like, what the hell, man? Why'd you check into that? Or if you did, like, just see the communication across from him to the offensive line all the way outside to his playmakers at the receiver spot. Just from that standpoint, hey, let's get into the right reads. Let's check. Hey, maybe one of their guys makes a play, but like, hey, let's don't let him come unclean. And it's like, dude, somebody didn't get the call here, man. Like, what are we doing? Like, come on, guys. It's Alabama A&M. We got Cal, who were probably better than coming in 2 weeks, that we're going to have to play well to beat at home. And I think they will, but I'm with you. Just a clean overall operation, no turnovers, stuff like that. More so than maybe even if Cam Coleman has like a drop pass or Perry Thompson, it's like, hey, it's their first game in college. I think everybody's going to be forgiving of that. But I think the overall clean operation, like you mentioned, Hugh Freeze is officially taking it over. He was so week to week last year. What in the bowl game, he was recruiting so hard he couldn't go over the play call sheet against Maryland. But now he's said it. He's 2 feet in. He jumped off the diving board. He's calling the plays. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No going back. Let's see the clean operation with Payton Thorne going into his second year on the Plains.
Dave, switching sides of the football to defensively, this is game number 1 for DJ Durkin at Auburn, new defensive coordinator. I think I'm most excited, Dave. Again, it's Alabama A&M, so what does a DJ Durkin defense look like? We'll see. It should dominate, obviously, and I think it probably will. First, look at some portal pieces, though, on defense. Gage Keys, Trill Carter, Philip Beatty, Isaiah Rakes, Kieron Crawford. You obviously have a nice nucleus of returners as well. This should be a pretty good Auburn defense. Thoughts on what you're looking for in this game? Again, they should dominate. You're going up against a pretty decent, I would say, rushing attack, but all things considered, this should be a pretty fun day and a fun debut for DJ Durkin there on the Plains.
I mean, I hate to say like a point total or it's a disappointment because you never know. I mean, just off a fluky tip pass, receiver catches it, your guy's there. It's just a fluky moment. Maybe they score 14. But I feel like Auburn's defense, I think, is going to be so surprised to people this year if they can stay healthy. Because I think DJ Durkin was one of the good pieces from a coaching staff standpoint at A&M the last 2 years. He does good scheme stuff. He comes from Florida. He obviously was the head coach at Maryland. The guy's a good football coach. Say whatever you want to say about him off the field. But DJ Durkin has fielded a lot of good defenses in his career. I think he does the same this year. I think they're going to be aggressive. Concern with Auburn defensively, I feel like will be just the depth on the back end. I like the Texas transfer, Jerry Thompson, who came over. He played a lot at Texas last year. I think Kayan Lee, the corner, is a good player as well. And then I think a guy like Keontae Scott coming back, he can play that nickel spot. He entered the portal but decided to come back. Those 3 pieces are good players. After that, I hear good things about Champ Anthony. I hear good things about Sylvester Smith, maybe Caleb Wooden, but we just don't know. And if 1 to 2 of those 3 guys I mentioned between Thompson, Scott, and Kayan Lee get banged up this year, that's a very thin secondary. And I feel like we say that about a lot of college teams, especially in the SEC this year. People got secondary question marks probably outside of Oklahoma, who's embarrassment of riches at the safety spot. But back to Auburn here, I want to see some of that depth. I want to see Sylvester Smith. I want to see Champ Anthony. I've heard through a lot of people they like what he's doing. I want to see Antonio Kite, Caleb Wooden. What do those guys look like? Because they're inevitably going to play in this game. We'll probably see them a lot come middle of the second quarter, at least second half. So I want to see what those guys, the depth in that back end, what does that look like with new secondary coach Charles Kelly coaching that group and Wesley McGriff, crime dog over there, coaching them in the backfield. So that's a concern for me in Auburn. But I think overall, just scheme-wise, Auburn should be pretty good on defense. They really weren't bad last year, honestly. They actually kept them in games. But I think the defense could be fine. I think it's going to be one of the surprise units in the league if they can stay healthy.
To your point, Dave, I think this is going to be a depth game, an empty the bench kind of game, right? Opportunity to see what you have from a depth perspective and get some guys some PT that maybe otherwise would not do so. Let's move into our predictions, Dave. I'll start with you. I doubt you're picking the upset. How do you see this one playing out? And what's your score prediction for this one?
I think we'll see something because I think Auburn's going to be pretty conservative on offense. That's why I thought they'd try to get the ground game going, get Jarquez Hunter loose, get that offense kind of rolling, get them in unison, get some depth built there. Obviously, give Cam Coleman, Keandre Lambert-Smith their touches, Perry Thompson. I think it's going to be something like, I think Auburn will be a little concerned. I'm going to go 49-3. I'm going to go 49-3. I think Auburn's defense is going to hold up. Again, I don't think Alabama A&M is going to be able to produce a bunch of explosive plays. And as you know, that's how you score predominantly in college football. Now, it's hard to go 75, 80 yards on people consistently in 11 and 12 plays, especially when you're in a total mismatch advantage like Alabama A&M. I don't think they generate enough explosive plays. I think it's something like that. Auburn, this is a roll the ball game out here. Let's work on ourselves a little bit here.
You know, it's interesting though, Dave. We say that, but after you lose a game like you did last year, totally different opponent, but after you lose a non-conference game to what most would have called an inferior opponent going in, I don't know that you ever take these games lightly ever again, right? So that being said, though, this one will never be in doubt. I think it's a little bit wider margin, Dave. I do think Auburn is going to want to make a point, build some confidence, get their young guys some touches on the outside. I think Hugh Freeze is going to want to kind of get this year off, started with a bang with him calling the plays. I got Auburn winning this game 63-6. Again, I think it's a name your score game. I mean, if you're talking about the spread, obviously Auburn's a 48.5 point favorite. You're sort of betting on to the backups come in and have
how early do we see Hank Brown that they've announced as their backup quarterback? Do they leave Payton Thorne in there for a while? Yeah, I think that's a big difference.
To that point, though, Dave, again, you want to empty the bench, but do they leave Payton Thorne in there a little bit longer to just build all the confidence you possibly can? Because, I mean, this is a dude that I don't care who the opponent is. Again, you want him to feel as good as he can feel going into the Cal game and then going into SEC play. So, I mean, I'm just saying. So, again, I got Auburn 63-6. The game will never be in doubt. I could see some big time, like you mentioned, explosive plays for the Tigers, and I think the defense will dominate. So, guys, again, Auburn, Alabama A&M kicking off year 2 of the Hugh Freeze era at Jordan-Hare. What are your thoughts? What are your predictions? What's your breakdown of this one as the 2024 season gets going on the Plains? Guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.